Welcome back to the channel. This is Red Brew Review. I hope you all had a very good Christmas or very good holiday, depending on what you celebrate. Um, Today, I'm going to be discussing another problem position for Ruben Amorim, and that is the left wing back spot. And in doing so, I'm going to give 5 names that I think personally should be on United's shopping list for that spot. I'm going to deep dive into each name and what they're about and where I think and how they can fit in and what their strengths are that could really give United something new in that spot. So from what we know and we've seen so far, it's clear Ruben Amorim's system thrives on dynamic wing-backs who can dominate both ends of the pitch. They need to defend with discipline, overlap with precision, and create chances with pinpoint accuracy. Yet the current options lack the consistency and versatility required for a role that has such demands. It can be argued that even that spot is United's Achilles heel at the moment. Shaw is nowhere to be seen, and for me, it was never going to be fit for purpose for that role anyway. I don't want to see him anywhere apart from left centre back. And then after the Bournemouth game, it was clear that Malacia isn't good enough for that role, and then the only other options we've had there mainly are our 2 right backs who either just can't do that role or are clearly best fit on the right hand side. So it's become very clear that we're in dire need of an upgrade. And I said in the summer that we need a left back, regardless of whether we have Shaw and Malacia. We need a left back in this. I said this in the summer, and whether it be a good young left back, someone Premier League proven. I even pushed for an older name who you can get availability out of. I said that in the summer we should have maybe looked at bringing Reguilon back, who was clearly not fit for purpose. Who's clearly not fit for purpose at Spurs, but would be perfectly fine as an option to have as a backup option in our team currently. Let alone what Ten Hag was doing before Amorim came in. Another option I think maybe we should have pursued was Marcos Alonso. Someone who has played and excelled in the left wing back role before at Chelsea and other clubs. And what he's offered at Barcelona as well is he's played at left centre back in a back 4. So I think that having that option as well would have been really good. Obviously we're here now, and it's clear we need a left wing back. Whether we get one in January or the summer remains to be seen. I think, I'll talk more about one of the options being potentially a January signing, but I think realistically, unless a new pot of gold, a new pot of pennies is found at Old Trafford, I don't see the board facilitating a move. But on the other hand, I can see Omar Barada having some kind of influence, whether it be moving players on, like the likes maybe of Rashford, or someone else in the squad who clearly just isn't playing. Barada has been there at City before, where they've brought investments forward in January, namely Aymeric Laporte, because of an injury crisis or because there was a dire need for a centre-back option in there at the time. So I think in this scenario, it could be possible, but I think we'll wait and see. So first option I've got is a Prem proven name, and that's Ryan Ait-Nouri from Wolves. His time at Wolves has been marked by growth and adaptation to the Premier League demands. Initially coming in 2020 on a loan, and obviously made permanent. Now, last season was really where everyone noticed Ait-Nouri a lot more. Become an ever-present figure at left wing back for Wolves, showcase his versatility and attacking prowess. He had performances that included key goals and assists as well, which, notably his late winner against Everton and contributions in matches against the likes of Fulham and Burnley. And he's shown both offensive and defensive capabilities. Now, especially with Vitor Pereira coming into Wolves right now, whose first game operated with a three at the back with wing backs, I think similar to another player in that team further forward, I think that there will be role familiarity if United were to go in. I mean, I've already mentioned Cunha coming in as a potential Rashford replacement, and he operated in that left 10 role against Leicester City. So I think as it stands at the time of recording, that we could end up in a position where Wolves will, you know, will give these players that familiarity in the roles. And if United were to go in for these players in January when the season ends, it may make for an even better fit than what I'm suggesting now. But aside from that, Ait-Nouri's profile seems to align well with Amorim's tactical system. You know, he highlights the importance of wing backs who can contribute significantly to the attack. And Ait-Nouri's style of play, where he's known for his high energy and his ability to play both as a defender and an attacker, I think fits the mold perfectly. You know, and couple that with his attacking attributes and the fact that he is now Premier League proven, I think makes him a very good option. And, you know, so being in this wing-back system you'd see Ait-Nouri providing width and support in the attack whilst also having responsibilities in defence. And this is a role which he's already shown at Wolves, and he's shown with some competence. And I think he'd be one of the cheaper options because Wolves, according to reports, have placed a high valuation on him, which is completely understandable because they value him very highly there. There's reports suggesting £60 million price tag, but there is a couple of factors that may come into play that might change that. Wolves have been struck with FFP issues over the years, and with the summer coming up, especially if they go down, they may find themselves having to sell players to balance the books, you know, aside from, you know, parachute payment money. And couple that with the fact that his contract expires in 2026, which come the summer he'll be in his final year of that contract. I think it's a very good transfer to do because I think United will, like I said in the Rashford replacement video, I said that United will look to be more methodical with their signings. They won't look to have a 60, 70, 80 million pound player in every single position. They will look at smart buys. And when you look at Arsenal and Liverpool's investment over the years, there has been significant investment, but there has been a lot of smart buys for good value for money. You know, whether you want to talk Arsenal's, you know, Gabriel for £34 million, Saliba for 30. And then you look at Liverpool with their Mane for 34, you know, Robertson for about £7 or £8 million, Salah for 34, Wijnaldum for 25, I believe it was. These are the kind of signings that give me faith that United can still do that and still reach another level. And Ait-Nouri is another one of those players who I believe that you sign him and in this better team, he will go up another level. So I really do think that if all the things come into effect, 30 to 40 million pounds, I think would be enough to prize him out of Wolves. And I don't want to suggest January, but if Wolves are in a position where they want to buy players in January and, you know, they may be forced to that they have to, you know, sell to buy, then I do think it might be possible if United chucked a bid in January and would see where that would be coming from. You know, I think there's a lot of positives with this transfer, and it would be one of the more budget options. And I think it's an option worth considering. Now, my second option on here is a bit more of a proven name, and we're going to head to Serie A with this one. It's a bit more expensive name actually, and that's Federico Dimarco at Inter. a key component of Inter Milan's setup under Inzaghi, and he's primarily operated as a left wing back, showcasing his versatility in both defense and attack. I think his performances as well have been marked by pace, goal contribution, especially from long range as well, crossing abilities. And he's proven all round that he can be a significant threat from the left flank. Having already played, he currently plays in a system that operates with a back three, and he's obviously with him in the left wing back role. And often he plays up high up the pitch, which aligns actually quite well with Amorim's aggressive high line strategy. And the only thing maybe that I think I'd put into question would be defensive discipline, because defensive discipline in Serie A is one thing, but I think that he'd need to get that to match the expectations in the Premier League, which obviously is a lot more demanding in terms of transition and quick counterattacks. That's not to say he doesn't have defensive discipline, but adapting to the Premier League's pace, and physicality might initially present challenges. His offensive stats at Inter, including goals and assists from advanced positions, does look good, however, and that would suggest he would thrive in Amorim's system, which encourages the wing-backs to contribute in attack. I think what I mentioned before about ability to deliver accurate crossing and score from distance would be valuable for this United team, because I think in those positions we need to improve our output from set pieces and open play, and I think he offers a new dimension in that. Now, recent reports indicate that United's interest in Dimarco has been rebuffed by Inter, who don't seem keen to let him go and are interested. In fact, they're instead looking to extend his contract further. And him being 27 and in his prime, I think it would take a big fee of maybe 50 to 60 million pounds to bring him in. But for me, what you're getting arguably the best left wing back in the world at the moment, and is the caliber of player that I think we need in our team. It's desperate for that kind of status. I think what doesn't help as well, that Inter's finances I don't think are as much of a problem as they used to be. So they may not look to sell like they used to a few years back, when it was famously known that Conte left Inter because he'd won on the league, and they turned around and said, we need to balance the books. We need to sell two of your crucial players in Lukaku and Hakimi. And I think Inter are not in that position as much anymore, where they don't need to push a sale of a player through anymore, which I understand would make it difficult, but I still think there is a deal there to be done. But to be honest, compared to the next name on the list, I don't think this deal is as easy, shall we say, as the next name, which is Theo Hernandez. Now, Theo Hernandez has been a pivotal player for me for AC Milan since joining them in 2019. His tenure at Milan has been marked by significant contributions, both defensively and offensively. And, he's operated a lot more as a left back in that position, but he's shown a lot of attacking prowess in that position as well. And he showcased, his speed, dribbling, and his ability to contribute to the team's goal tally. Over his seasons with Milan, he's notched up numerous assists and goals, underlining his importance to the team's attacking plays. And with this dynamic play style, he's one of the most talked about left backs in Europe, let alone Serie A, earning him a spot in the Serie A Team of the Year multiple times. And, I think his versatility actually needs to be talked about a lot more. I think it's another asset, because from what you would describe about Theo Hernandez, there'll be a section of the United fan base that would pin that on Luke Shaw. Especially with this part, he can operate effectively in a back four, but he's also been in different tactical setups as well. I can see him operating actually, if needed, as a left centre back in the back three. Now that's not the role I primarily want him in, but he had a stint last season where he played 5 games in that position, and he was actually very good in that role. There was a couple of points where he would drift out wide, but that was obviously come to what he's accustomed to. I think by the end of the 5 games, he'd become accustomed to that defensive and positional discipline he needed in that back four next to Tomori. But I think that if needed, I think he can play that left centre back position really well. He's demonstrated his capability to step into central defence, using his pace to cover ground, and his tactical awareness to read the game from a different perspective was actually quite good. Which in any case has an air of deja vu about it, because Lucas, his brother, plays both in the middle and on the left. So I don't know if there's something in that, but it was quite clear to see that Theo Hernandez can play as a centre back, as a left back, and even as a left wing back if needed. But in this Amorim system, I think primarily he will be as a left wing back. I think his skill set is very highly beneficial. His ability to push forward with the ball, create chances, deliver crosses aligns perfectly, which, it emphasizes with Amorim's philosophy of attacking fullbacks who can contribute defensively. Now, he has been on the radar with reports indicating that he could be a prime target for that position. His contract situation at Milan, I think I said in the summer actually on some other shows that it might make him an attractive option for transfer negotiations. It looks like now at the moment it looks like Milan may actually pay what he wants in his contract, but I think that there was a point where the contract talks stalled, and I think that could be a really good card that United could use. And I think you could get him cheaper than Dimarco. I think maybe £50 million is what it takes to get him out of Milan. Milan side who, me personally, feel like should be pushing for more with some of the quality of players they have. But they don't seem to, and their recruitment clearly doesn't seem to show the level of ambition the fans want. And if you're continuously not winning, I do believe that, you can prize a player as good as Theo Hernandez out of Milan, and he can do really well in this league and in this team and in this formation and in that role. So I do think in terms of value for money, realistically, I think this is one of the better deals to go for. And I really like Theo Hernandez. So I'm all for this one if United were to go in for it. The next name on the list is a little bit different, actually, which is Alphonso Davies. His time at Bayern has been marked by his exceptional pace, versatility, and growth from a promising young talent to one of the best fullbacks in the world, if not the best. Very fast, often likened to a roadrunner. And he's been pivotal in both defense and attack. He's shown significant improvement in his defensive responsibilities, whilst also maintaining flair and effectiveness in offensive plays. Davies has become renowned for his dribbling, direct style of play, and his ability to transition quickly from defense to attack, which I do think is a really strong asset for Amorim to have in a left wing back role. According to recent stats, Davies ranks in the top percentile among fullbacks in Europe for carries into the final third, successful take-ons, and ball recoveries per 90, which highlights his dual threat in both attack and defense. And for Amorim and for Davies, this system could suit him perfectly. Also, for his athletic profile, his speed and dribbling would be invaluable in this system, where wing-backs are expected to push forward and create overlaps or underlaps to deliver crosses or cut inside for shots. I think that's a part of the wing-backs role that we don't have, is someone who can also contribute to attack as good as they can to defense. And statistically it indicates that Alphonso Davies could seamlessly integrate into this role. You know, plays further forward for Canada anyway, albeit international level being different. But I think he would provide quality service from the left flank. And the fact that his ball recovery stats suggest he can handle the defensive responsibilities required, especially in a more structured defensive setup like a back three, where he wouldn't be as isolated as he would be in a back four. And, you know, he's shown under multiple coaches at Bayern that he can adapt to different tactical demands, which I think is crucial for fitting into Amorim's dynamic and evolving strategies within this team. I think the main hurdle for United is finances. So Davies will be commanding, I think, will have higher salary expectations. And when you've got competition from clubs like Real Madrid, who offer so much more at the top level, whereas United lack that a little bit. And Real Madrid have that pull, and they've had that recent history of I want to say a financially stable rebuild. Obviously, you can talk about Mbappe coming in on a free transfer, but paying ridiculous wages and bonuses. But a lot of players they brought in, like Rudiger, like Alaba, you know, they've rebuilt this Real Madrid side on a lot of free transfers. And I think, you know, Davies' contract with Bayern is to expire in June. So next month, he can start talking to clubs as a free agent. You know, if he doesn't extend his deal, which at the moment has a lot of speculation, you know, Bayern want to extend his contracts, but they don't seem to want to pay as much as he wants from most reports. However, there was a report recently that there was some progress in that. And then Real Madrid, obviously, you know, they've had that where they've spoken to players in the summer before and say, wait for January, we'll come approach you. And then it looks like Real Madrid are more likely to pay the salary demands. So it puts United in a bit of a pickle in that regard, because if you're Man United and you're not doing as well as Bayern or Real Madrid in their leagues, how'd you get him? And I think it comes down to, I mean, I've mentioned the prospect of, if you want to move Marcus Rashford on, I think he would thrive at Bayern personally. And you offer a swap deal in January between the two players. You know, but there was a report recently that Bayern aren't interested in Marcus Rashford, which is a bit of a shame, because I think he'd be really good there. And, you know, it puts them in a position where they're not losing out. They are gaining something from moving this player on. There is also I think if there was a January deal to happen, if a pot of pennies was found at Old Trafford and in Carrington, I think this is the deal United should go for in January. Because I think January is the perfect time to test the waters for someone who's in the last few months of their contract. And I think putting a 30 to 40 million pound bid in January, I know seems like a lot, but what you're getting is a world-class left back who you could see more come from him in that left wing back role. And by testing the waters in January, you could be forcing Bayern's hand, where they don't want to lose on an asset. They don't want to make a loss on an asset, you know, seeing him leave for free at the end of the season. And I think Bayern would rather take a transfer fee, if it came to it, than lose him to Real Madrid if they're not going to agree financially. But it's still a difficult one, because arguably you're the third favourite option. You know, you're currently holding the bronze as Man United, compared to Bayern Munich, who are winning their league every year. And then above that, it's Real Madrid, who are currently the champions of Europe, who've just brought in Kylian Mbappe on a free transfer. But he's one of the more proven options, and he's still at a good age. So I do think it's still worth pursuing. Now for one of the younger options, Milos Kerkez. This guy's been at Bournemouth for over a year now, and he's been making waves since joining them, showcasing as a versatile and dynamic left back. His time at Bournemouth has been marked by significant contributions, both defensively and offensively, like all the other left backs I've mentioned. Since his arrival from Alkmaar, he's quickly adapted to the demands of English football. And he's been praised for his energetic performances, combining tenacity in defense with an ability to contribute in attack. And whilst those are also good assets to have, I think one-on-one defensively, coupled with the forward runs, he's made him one of the most exciting young defenders in the league. And his consistent performances in overlapping and progressive carries have cemented his reputation as a very good young player on the rise. Now, Kerkez's ability to handle one-on-one duels on the flank would be crucial, I think, in Amorim's high line, which often leaves wing-backs exposed, but also allows them to push up when in possession. His defensive stats and proactive defending style match the demands of this back three setup, where the wing-backs are integral both defensively and in transitional phases of play going forward. And with Amorim's emphasis on control in possession and proactive football, Kerkez's ability to make the overlapping runs and deliver crosses or cutbacks could be vital. His performance against City, where he was directly involved in setting up 2 goals, indicates he could thrive in a system that encourages wing-backs to be involved in the final third. And at just 21, he fits into the profile of young, adaptable players that Amorim and his team at United have been eyeing. His potential for growth as well could align well with Amorim's project of building a squad that can evolve over time under his coaching. Now, whilst the exact figures are always subject to negotiation, Bournemouth would probably demand around £50 million, give or take, for Kerkez, especially considering his potential and the interest from clubs like United and Liverpool. Especially if it's higher end 50 towards 60, it could prove a stumbling block, especially when you're competing with Liverpool, who this season are on fire. It looks like it's their league title to lose, and it looks like they could go in for him, with question brought into Robertson this season. So I do feel like that's a bit of a stumbling block, but counter argument, you're investing heavy into a young talent that could be your next big thing for 10 years. He could be your left wing back for 10 years. But I think the previous board tried to look at it that way with the Højlund signing, and that's where they went wrong. Spending £80 million on a player who had only a handful of starts to his name and a handful of goals, and not enough time in the first team with the current manager in Gasperini when he was at Atlanta. So I do think he's a good option worth considering, but I think if they're commanding too much money, I think you can get better value for money that's more proven. And then you have other notable mentions. 2 other names I would consider as notable mentions would be Miguel Gutierrez at Girona, who, known for his attacking flair and defensive solidity, excelling in one-on-one situations similar to Kerkez, strong ability to overlap and contribute to the attack. I think he'd also be a very good option. Tactical understanding and work rate because are 2 of his strengths, and I think it can make him versatile defensively and offensively, and I think he'd be a very good asset. And then the other one is Nuno Mendes, known for his pace, dribbling ability, defensive prowess, making him one of the most promising fullbacks in Europe. And he's been around for a few years, but I think people forget he's still at a good age. He's still quite young. And I think with that, I think you'd be getting another player who will be here for a long period of time and could be good value for money. Now, he had that serious injury whilst at PSG, and there is worry that maybe will that stay with him moving into the future? Will he get more serious injuries as time goes on? But, the way he combines speed with technical skill, he's effective both defensively and, offensively. And he has that ability to revert into midfield from his position at left back for PSG, which can add another dimension to his play. And it could be particularly useful in a more fluid system. And Amorim knows him. Amorim had him at Sporting. Now, I said in the last video, I don't want us to be Sporting 2.0. But it's always worth having players that are role familiar. The only stumbling block, I think, with Nuno Mendes is that PSG currently are locked in contract talks with him. They're looking to extend his contract. So if you want him, I think you'd have to pay top dollar for him. And like I said, I think given the names on the list, I think you can maybe vouch for other names as better value for money. So in conclusion, it's clear if United want to compete at the highest level, with this demanding system, they desperately need an upgrade at left wing back. The current options simply don't offer consistency, creativity, or defensive reliability required. The names I've mentioned aren't just wishful thinking. They're the type of players who could transform that left flank and elevate United's game to a whole new level. And the board and recruitment team definitely see this too. And they know without reinforcements, that position could remain a critical weakness and could be Amorim's Achilles heel. What do you think? Can United land one of these targets? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and I'll talk to you later. See you in the next one.